They are targeting agencies that they believe are populated by people with different political affiliations than the president. They are firing FBI agents that engaged in any kind of law enforcement action against Republicans.
Democrats have been bringing the fight to Donald Trump in a way that I haven't seen through the beginning of his administration over the past few days. And as you would expect, Donald Trump is not enjoying that fight. Republicans are doing everything they can to flood the zone with as many pieces of bad legislation, as many crazy stories, and as many criminal acts as possible to distract from the assault on the most fundamental aspects of our government, the social safety net that protects regular working Americans, and Democrats are making sure they can't do that. Making sure they are breaking through all the noise and delivering this attack on Donald Trump's agenda. And one senator who did a particularly great job was Senator Chris Murphy. Gave an incredible speech on the House floor that led to a very triggered Donald Trump tweeting away in an angry meltdown, and we are going to get into all of that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me now. Before we get into what Donald Trump posted in this insane meltdown, I first want to check out a bit of that very long, very incredible speech from Senator Murphy right here.
Courts and the Supreme Court has broadly recognized that a president cannot decide by himself what money to spend and what money not to spend. A president also cannot decide for himself to apply new conditions to spending beyond what the democratically elected Congress selected. And the reason for that, the reason why that power is vested in Congress, is primarily a check on despotism. Because if a president has the ability to unilaterally decide how to spend money, then of course the natural temptation is to only spend money in a way that benefits, preserves, and advances your political power. Spend money on people who support you, deny money to people that don't support you, in order to pressure more people to support you. I wasn't here for Senator Kim's speech, but it sounded like he laid out the corollary that still exists, unfortunately, in some closed political systems in this country, where you have party machines that give out favors and money and privilege based upon loyalty. Okay, we decided in this country the president is not going to get to do that because it is inherently subject to fraud and abuse and corruption. And as we have talked about, as Senator Schatz and I talked about, this president has been pretty unapologetic. Russ Vought has been pretty unapologetic in their insistence that, yes, in fact, people that are loyal to the president should be treated differently. It isn't as if we don't understand what the president is trying to do by capturing federal spending power. He's criticizing projects in Democratic states. He's saying we may not fund disasters in Democratic states. They are targeting agencies that they believe are populated by people with different political affiliations than the president. They are firing FBI agents that engaged in any kind of law enforcement action against Republicans. And so maybe this conversation would be a little bit less frantic, the moment would feel a little bit less urgent if you thought that the president was seizing control of federal spending for some halfway legitimate reason. But in fact, it looks as if President Trump is trying to seize control of federal spending for the exact reason that worried the founding fathers so much that they were explicit in the Constitution. No, the president cannot seize control of federal spending. It will lead to fraud, corruption, and ultimately the erosion and perhaps destruction of our democracy. The Founding Fathers worried every single day about writing a document that prevented a slide to despotism. And you can laugh that off as hyperbole. You can say that, Democrats are crying wolf. Of course, America is always going to be a democracy. Every democracy dies. It does. Every democracy has an expiration date, just like every civilization has an expiration date. There is an end, and there are a series of events that lead to that end. Maybe this isn't it, but boy, when you package the list that I will give you together, it looks suspiciously like the roadmaps that caused other democracies to fall, and it looks suspiciously like the set of things that our founding fathers were clear about protecting against.
I have loved the way that Senator Murphy has responded to the beginning of the Trump administration. Of course, we had him on the show a couple weeks back, hoping to have him on again very soon. Obviously, a very busy guy, but he is bringing the messaging war online to every platform, to every place, as much as he can and all the time. That's what we need to be doing as well. If Republicans want to flood the zone, Democrats have to flood the zone with everything terrible that they're doing. So we can find some way to get the messaging to break through, and clearly it's breaking through enough, because Donald Trump is trying to respond with his own storm of nonsense. In this post, right here, Trump wrote, in all caps, "Looks like billions of dollars have been stolen at USAID and other agencies, much of it going to the fake news media as a payoff for creating good stories about the Democrats. The left-wing rag known as Politico seems to have received $8 million. Did the New York Times receive money? Who else did?" This could be the biggest scandal of them all. Perhaps the biggest in history. The Democrats can't hide from this one. Too big, too dirty. So what Trump is referring to there, trying to muddy the waters over Democrats calling out the assault on USAID, not only for the important work that it does, but because Donald Trump can't unilaterally shut down a government agency as president. He doesn't have that power. It's unconstitutional. It's criminal. Much like what Elon Musk is trying to do at Treasury. But the reason Donald Trump is saying that is because he wants to lie about this story. Of course, these agencies have to get information. They subscribe to the very well put together, very well documented journalism that is important to their work. Sometimes it's at Politico, sometimes at the New York Times. They're not paying out media companies. They're subscribing to newsletters. Donald Trump doesn't want you to know that, though. Again, because he's trying to muddy the waters. He is trying to present this narrative that him and Elon are saving you money by getting rid of these agencies, rather than the truth that they're trying to intimidate people and get them to leave so they don't have to fire them. Many of them, they cannot fire so that they can install their own MAGA loyalists and then go write Elon a gigantic tax cut for the rest of him and his billionaire friends. That's going to cost more money than any money that's conceivable saved by Doge. That is their plan. That's what has to be called out. And it was called out even more by Senator Chris Murphy in the rest of that speech.
And so the reason that we are on the floor tonight, the reason that you feel this urgency from our side of the aisle and from the American public, is that we used to think that we were in this together, Republicans and Democrats. We've always had a difference on this philosophy of where wealth and power should accumulate. I think Republicans broadly have believed in this idea of trickle down. They have not believed as much as we have in supporting the middle class with programs like Medicare and Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. That's a legitimate political disagreement. And if that's what's going on, then the country will survive. But if there's a seizure of spending power by the president, if the president gets to decide by himself which agencies exist and which don't, well, our democracy doesn't recover from that, because what goes around comes around. Today, it's a Republican president seizing spending power. A Democratic president will do it as well. And then all of a sudden, the people aren't in charge. One person is in charge. I thought that we all were in that exercise together, the defense of the Constitution, the defense of Congress's rightful prerogative to decide how money is spent on behalf of our constituents. What Donald Trump is doing is putting Congress out of business. I think I heard Senator Schatz saying something like this as I walked in. I don't know why you work so hard to get a job like this. If you're just going to outsource all of your power to one man, it's not easy to become a United States Senator. Most people spend their entire career fighting to get this job. You got to do kind of ugly, distasteful things like sitting in a room raising money for hours on end in order to become a United States Senator. You have to give up all your weekends. You spend less time with your family.
I hope all enjoy hearing from Senator Murphy, because there is certainly going to be a lot more of his great speeches, interviews, and takedowns, and some of those interviews are definitely going to be coming on this channel in the future. But if there are any other Democrats you see, especially standing out right now that you think are doing a great job, let me know in the comments. I'd love to bring them on. Love to reach out. Love to play some of their clips. Certainly, Jasmine Crockett is doing incredible work. My own Congressman Maxwell Frost. I want to have all these people on. We have to be all using our platforms together to uplift this message. It is what we are going to try to do every single day on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.